Turning to multilateralism, Mr. Lee said a small country like Singapore cannot act unilaterally and choose to negotiate bilateral trade deals like the U.S. has.
Instead, small countries should seize opportunities to work on economic cooperation, regional integration and building up multilateral institutions. Tan Se-hui with this report.
Mr. Lee said the U.S. has lost faith in the World Trade Organization, a major multilateral institution. The U.S. often imposes tariffs and trade sanctions outside a WTO rules and enters into one-on-one deals against smaller countries in tests of strength. But this is something that Singapore cannot afford to do.
Being small, we are naturally disadvantaged in bilateral negotiations. We need to reform and strengthen multilateral institutions, not cripple or block them. More fundamentally, confining ourselves to a bilateral approach means foregoing win-win opportunities which come from countries working together with more partners. And we need to build a broader regional and international architecture of cooperation. When groups of countries deepen their economic cooperation, they will enhance not just their shared prosperity, but also their collective security. And with more stake in one another's success, they will have greater incentive to uphold a conducive and peaceful international order, which will benefit many countries, big and small.
Besides universal trade agreements, Mr. Lee said it's important to strive for regional agreements like the 11-member mega FTA CPTPP. He hopes China and the US would consider joining it, even as more countries like the UK want to come on board. When it came to the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, Mr. Lee urged countries to take the final step to complete the deal this year, or as soon as the election schedules of key players allow. Still, he said regional cooperation goes beyond trade and said that ASEAN has served as an effective platform for dialogue and cooperation.
ASEAN works on the basis of consensus. It makes more progress in some areas than others because ASEAN members are not immune to the strategic forces which pull us in different directions. This is the hard reality of cooperation in a region exposed to multiple external influences. Despite its limitations, ASEAN has contributed greatly to the well-being of its members and the security of the region, and ASEAN's partners recognize the value of ASEAN centrality.
Mr. Lee also said Singapore supports China's Belt and Road Initiative, calling it a mechanism for China to be engaged with the region. He highlighted Singapore's role in promoting financial connectivity and providing legal services to countries involved. But he warned that the substance and implementation of the initiative are equally important, noting that some projects have run into problems.
Overall, the BRI must be open and inclusive and must not turn the region into a closed bloc centered on a single major economy. As Asian countries deepen their links with China, they also need to grow their ties with the US, Europe, Japan, and others. In other words, the BRI should help China to integrate with the world. The end result should be to strengthen globalization and not to divide the world into rival spheres of influence.
Meanwhile, Mr. Lee said Singapore supports other regional cooperation initiatives, such as the Indo-Pacific Cooperation. He said they should help bring countries together rather than split them apart.